Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, so the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I am, as always, Seth, your host. I am here today with Ashley Harding of North Star Academics in LA. So I'm on the East Coast. She's at lunchtime. I'm at the end of the day, pretty much. So that's pretty cool. Time zones, aren't they fantastic? Ashley is the founder and educational therapist at North Star Academics. She's dedicated the past 10 years to supporting children and families nationwide, so not just LA, nationwide, navigating education's cultural and academic demands. Born and raised in West Los Angeles, so she's back where she started, not academically, but she's in LA, which is cool. She has a bachelor's of science and degree from University of Southern California, master's in child development from Tufts. So she's been on the East Coast as well. She's been all over the country. So that's fantastic. She's done a lot. And we're going to have her talk about a little bit about her background, or because you're going to get sick of hearing it from me. But she does love 90s R&B, and she likes Randy's Donuts, which I have no idea what that is. So we're going to have to go into talking about that. Hey, Ashley, how's it going?
Hey, Seth, how are you?
I'm great. Have you always wanted to be an educator and help, those less fortunate? And like, how did this all get started?
So no, to answer your question, I've not always wanted to be an educator. When I finished undergrad, I worked in commercial real estate, and then the
Oh,
market hit like rock bottom, 2008, 2009. And then I moved to DC and I worked in international banking. So I worked for a large international bank at the time. I was head of
wow.
their lobbying group. So my background is definitely more focused in like finance and more business practices.
Oh, so
But
you're
at
you're
night,
you're good at balancing your books. So that's good.
yeah, yes, I can balance my books. Yeah. In fact, if you ask me to do a bank statement, spreadsheet, or balance sheet, I would rather that than like social media. That scares the crap out of me.
Wow.
But at night, when I was in DC working for the International Bank, I used to volunteer for an organization called the Homeless Children's Playtime Project.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I saw a lot of the inequities. That's where I saw kids of various backgrounds, disenfranchised, as you can imagine, being unhoused. But we saw
Mhm.
that there were two-parent households that were separated because when families go into shelters, many times boys over 14 and the fathers are not permitted. And so
Oh,
these are things, yeah, these are things that like you
that's
don't know as
weird.
a yeah, as an average person. Now, a lot of it's for safety. Obviously, you
Yeah.
want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and that women and children feel comfortable. But think about what that does to a family, right? Like they're experiencing
Yeah.
temporary housing insecurity, and now they've got to be separated. And so that's when I said, you know what, there's something bigger that can be done. I fell in love with Jeffrey Canada and the Harlem Children's Zone. So I knew I was committed to staying on the East Coast, at least for that time in my life. And I went to Boston and I went to Tufts for a master's in child development with I would say, a sub-master's or a
Ooh,
deeper degree in urban schools and education.
that's
And
that's
yeah, then I came
that's
back to
quite a
DC.
pivot. It's quite a pivot, but I guess I can see how the lobbying can come in
Yeah.
handy. The
Oh gosh, yes.
persuasion can come in handy.
Oh goodness, yes. That's a big part. I would say about 80% of what I do now is a lot of,
Yeah.
we call it advocacy, but it's a lot of
Advocacy,
lobbying.
yeah, that's a more positive term than lobbying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's all the same though.
It's all the
It's
same, but
making
one's more
sure
positive
everybody's
thinking,
interests are met.
positive spin,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's great. So
yeah.
you've been doing this for 10 years.
Hmm.
And before that, you were in banking, real estate, completely other things. So you
Yeah.
can, and so you found your calling. You came over here, and had you always been? When did has North Star Academics been like the main thing for this 10 years, or did you work in house somewhere?
No, I actually worked for a national charter organization. In fact, I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. That was
Oh,
not the
wow.
path that I wrote for myself. But when I moved back to LA, I had no idea what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted to come back home. And it was after about a year working with somebody else that one of my parents, who I still have as a client, said, like, why the heck are we paying somebody else when you're the only one we know? You're the only one that we
You're the
work
one that
with.
matters. We like you. We're gonna pay you.
We'd like you. We'd rather pay you. And North
Well,
Star was founded in May
that's
of
kind of sweet.
2019.
Nice little, nice kick in the tush to kind of
It
open up
is.
your own business. That they love you that much that they're like, we want to pay you. That's like that's really awesome. We're gonna take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
It was the beginning of learning. And I always say being an entrepreneur is just having a product that makes everybody else's life easier. And that was the
Exactly.
beginning of
Not
really
always
understanding
ours.
that.
Not always ours. Ours is never easier when we're doing everyone else's lives easier.
Yes, sometimes it gives us a lot of passion and impact, and that's
Mm.
what I stand on. But the ease is usually my clients and customers.
Yeah.
And
We
so,
don't get these.
yeah, the ease comes. My summers feel a little easier,
Easier. Yeah.
easier.
Because they're in
Yeah,
school and all that. It's because you're in Los Angeles, because so it's
yes,
more temperate, but you also have a big homeless population out there.
we do. We have a huge unhoused population that
Unhoused.
obviously
It makes more sense. Yeah, unhoused is the new term.
unhoused is the new term. So we've got a huge unhoused population, and the studies are showing that, well, I don't know if you saw in the LA Times, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, the median home price in California, in Los Angeles, is at $1 million.
Holy
And this is this is not just Beverly Hills. Like, this is not what people think of for $1 million. We're talking about in communities that usually were focused on supporting the middle class, even in
$1
communities where
million.
you see $1 million.
Now,
So
and
when
then
you
you
think
also gotta
of,
look when you do that, you gotta look at, like, what people are making that, because I mean, if you look in New York, like, I have a friend who has a house my size, but her house is worth $1 million because it's
Mhm.
closer to New York, and she's making more money to afford that because inflation and all that. But that doesn't always equal out sometimes.
No,
Sometimes you're
no.
making the same amount as you would normally make, but the house
Mhm.
is up there, and it's like it's
That's
crazy.
it. Well, we've got huge companies coming, and I'm not going to disparage big business, but we've got Apple, we've got Google, we've got
Mhm.
now Silicon Beach.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, so we are now competing with people who may make 6, 7 times what the average person makes because they're in an industry that can afford to pay that on
Yeah.
top of, and obviously with the strikes, things are shifting. But then you've got Hollywood. So you've also got another
Yeah.
pool of huge, vast income disparity. But yeah, no, LA has a huge unhoused population. We have a
Ugh.
wonderful population of people who've been here, like myself, for generations. And there are moments where I think all of my friends who've left and come back, we all say, like, would we have done
Ouch.
that if our families weren't here? Like,
Yeah,
would
exactly. There's
this
other
be the
places that
city
are
that you
nice,
choose?
nice,
Yeah,
not
so
quite as hot, you know?
it's a beautiful city, and it's great to be close to the beach, but you are paying a premium to be by the beach.
Exactly, and but California in general is expensive. Like, you can be in the middle of nowhere in California, and it's still expensive.
That is true, and I can say I've never desired to be in the middle of nowhere in California, so I'm gonna take your word for that. But yes,
Yeah.
California is quite expensive. I was shocked when I moved back east, and just the amount of space that you get, and of course you're in a 300 old,
Mm.
apartment or house sometimes, but you have so much more space. You have a
Uh-huh.
different quality of life, but it is
Everything's
cool.
relative, but you get the beach. You get the beach for crying out
You
loud.
get the beach. You
You
get
get
the
the beach.
beach.
So to go back to your entrepreneurial journey, how was it during the pandemic for you? That must have been
Um,
crazy.
So I started my business in May of 2019. I
Oh,
had
jeez.
contracts. Yeah, I was traveling a lot for students. So it seemed like, like everybody said, like, oh, it's a new decade, new year, new me.
Yeah, it's
And
rocket,
when,
yeah.
yeah, when COVID hit, there was so much unpredictability because I think for most of us, we were taking our cue, obviously, from WHO, but there was such little information. And so we were really looking to schools to say, like, okay, if kids can go to school, this thing can't be that scary, right? The
And then
moment
kids
that
can't go to
California,
school, and we're like, "Oh,
and
crap."
then when kids couldn't go to school, it was like, I mean, I remember being in meetings with administrators who are like, we're not going back this year, but we can't tell parents that yet. Like literally they were like, we've got to ease parents into this like
Oh, they were
2 weeks,
eating it for a while there.
a month. Yeah.
I remember I was Lysoling. I
Oh
was in a
gosh.
co-working space and we were Lysoling because we didn't know what it was. We knew it was
Yeah.
airborne, surface borne, whatever. So we were
Yeah.
Lysol went out. I mean, hell, toilet paper. It
Yeah.
wasn't a GI thing, people. Come on. I mean, you might have caused it in
Toilet
some people, but
paper.
no.
No,
People
but
always
like
go for
who
toilet
thought
paper.
toilet paper would be the commodity of 2020 that like literally you'd have to
That
go to
you
grocery
didn't really
stores.
need. You needed tissues, not toilet paper. Oh my
Yeah.
god! Everyone's like, "Oh no, it's gonna make me poop." No, it's gonna make you
Or
sneeze.
I think for a lot of us, it was like, let me stock up on everything I could need so I never have to leave my home
Remember
again.
hand sanitizer? How hard it was to get hand sanitizer? It was like,
Yeah.
what?
Do
Now
you
you can
remember
get
people
it.
making
Now it's like
it?
now we have too much hand. Now at the CVS where I go, they have Lysol on discount because they can't get rid of the stock.
Wow. Okay,
It's like
stock up.
literally, it's a whole end cap full of one flavor of Lysol. Like, buy this, please. And I'm like, why is this here? They're like, because we have too much.
Hey, like get it. You'll never not need it at some point, even if 20 years from now you use
I have a
it. Just
10-year-old.
get it that way.
I need it. But
Oh,
he's a
you need
snot
it.
nosed
You need it.
teenager. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
gross. I love him. I love him to death. But he's getting to that age that they go gross, they get
Yeah.
a little bit better, then they get even more disgusting. So
Yeah. Yeah. Just wait until they stop like brushing teeth and like showering. Cause like those are the things that kids regress on because now we're more independent, right? Like you're 10, take a shower. And then you'll notice like 2 days later, like, oh, they did not shower.
or they
Cool.
didn't wash their armpits. Oh,
And they didn't wash their armpit because
we're
they don't think
we're
you can smell it.
digressive. It's kind of in tune with education because you got to teach your kids to wash their armpits. You know,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
that's fun. So
Yeah.
what? So besides washing armpits, what's the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
I would say the best part about being an entrepreneur, and this speaks to working in schools, which I loved
Mhm.
my experience to now, I get to choose how I make impact. I think that we
That's
have,
awesome.
and I'm sure everybody in any industry can say this, like we all have innovation, we all have creative ideas to problem solve. But if you've got a boss, you're going to problem solve the way that you're taught to based on their bottom line and need. For me, I get to be creative. I get to work with the families I choose to work with. I get to problem solve in real time.
Mhm.
And I know this sounds so silly sometimes. I feel valued. I can't
I
tell
like
you
that.
how many times
They're saying
I
they want you to
walk
quit
away
your
happy.
job and they just want to hire you. I mean, that shows value that you're valuable because I mean, a parent saying, I don't want to pay this person, I want to pay you because we're using you. Like,
Yeah.
and that, I mean, that's like the biggest testimonial affirmation you can possibly freaking get. I would get that in like writing and put it in like a gold frame or something. That's incredible. That's a great affirmation. It shows your shit. That's kind of cool.
Well, thank you. And I hope it shows that their kids are prospering and flourishing. And one of my
Yeah.
key, like, favorite things to share is like the same family that told me that, my first family, I'm still with them. I'm literally emailing between mom and another school right now. We're 6 years
Oh,
in.
wow.
Yeah.
So then they know when there's a good thing there. So,
Yeah.
we'll go back to COVID real fast. So how did you pivot during COVID? Did you do then go because I mean, remember for the first yeah, for 2020, we didn't know what our heads from our asses. We had no idea what was
Yeah.
going on. 2021, we kind of figured it out a little bit more. COVID mutated a little bit, and it's not a health podcast. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, so don't take this for a word of anything here. But then 2021 kind of got a little bit looser, somewhat. But how did you
And
pivot?
we got
Because
some people out fast.
you were in schools, and then there are no schools
Well,
to go into. Like,
yeah. So I want to say almost the week before COVID, I just scheduled a bunch of tours at schools. I remember March 12th sitting with a family and talking, and we were not masked. And then, like, a week later, being like petrified, seeing somebody within 6 feet, right? Like, you go from normal life to like, I can't trust any human. I would say North Star benefited from the families we had, we kept. And so that was amazing. And then
you went to
because
Zoom, right?
we went to Zoom. I started seeing more clients in person because all of my kids were on Zoom. And so when I say
Oh,
I'm masked up, I was gloved up, hand
you
sanitied,
had
everything.
the visor.
Had the little visor. I
I never
have a
understood the
gift.
visor, how that because things could go around. I never got the visor part. Never got that.
I I did the visor and the gloves because it's kids. And so if I'm in someone's home, the kids aren't masked, the family's not masked. I would never ask that. It's your home. But who's not going to hug a 5-year-old? Who's not going to like expect a 5-year-old to come by and
And they're
you want
snotty, and you don't know
and
what the
there's
heck they have. Yeah.
no, and what they have is 5-year-old germs. They didn't, thank God, have
Mhm.
COVID, but it was trying to keep as much normalcy as possible. So I come in looking like a NASA space astronaut with all of my gear, but I was there day in and day out with some
Oh,
of
I
my
love it.
kids. I have a team of tutors who were in the home, and so we didn't scale quite as large as we wanted to because we really were more one-on-one, and we didn't
More
have the
bespoke, yeah.
capacity. Yeah, we didn't have the capacity to do the large, grander scaling, but what we did is we went deep. And so I had
Love it.
kids who, right before COVID, were really on the brink of like, we're not sure how the rest of the year is going to go, to these kids skyrocketing because they needed that individual education. They
So
needed
so s
somebody
see,
who
there
just made
is
it
always
fun.
some silver lining with COVID.
Oh, God,
Like,
yeah.
I had my best
Oh,
years
yeah.
in my 15 years of business. I've had my best years during COVID because
Yeah.
everyone realized they needed websites. I'm like, "Oh,
You
no.
need a
What do we
website. Yeah.
do?"
Yeah, you need a website. You need somebody who can do, like you said, more bespoke. I always think of it as the highest customer service. Here's the thing. I work with kids and I work with families. Nobody wants to feel like they're a number, and nobody who works with us feels that way. You get a one-on-one with me. You get to meet anybody you want. If somebody on my team isn't the right person that day, I've got two other people that I
You
can
pivot,
send
yeah.
over. Because at the end of the day, our promise is to see your child fulfilled. I don't
Love it.
care if it takes 100 different methods. We're here. We're going to do it because what we can do is not what the school can do. A school teacher has 30 kids in a classroom.
Yeah,
My instructors have one. So we better
yeah.
do our jobs well.
You better. You better, and clearly
Yeah.
you are. So what keeps you up
Yeah.
at night? Well, with entrepreneurship? I
Oh.
mean,
Growth and scale, making sure that my team feels really supported, making sure that my team knows that they're bought into my mission, which is seeing
yeah.
students of color, students and families succeed. And what really keeps me up at night is I've got about a handful of kids that I've known since they were young, and now they are
Oh,
big and taller than me, and constantly wondering what is it that they're going to need next? Who is it that needs to help? Who
oh,
am I missing a call from? I have like a running to-do list. My to-do list is about 3 pages long, and I categorize it by student, by school.
wow.
Um, and so,
That's
yeah, I
awesome.
would say the first 2 years that kept me up. Now I've learned like, don't lose sleep because people aren't going to answer your email at 2 a.m. Even if you send it tomorrow, it will get
Oh,
figured
no,
out.
don't get in the habit of using the snooze function on email either. That's a little too handy.
Yeah.
I'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning every once in a while with an idea, and I'll snooze it till 9 o'clock in the morning. But I'm like, I wrote it
Yeah.
at 2 o'clock. I'm like, that's not healthy. That's not a good
No,
idea.
that's not a good idea.
So here's
No.
a question for you. What is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
Mm. Um, a sense of confidence. And
Love
sometimes
it.
it's in myself, sometimes it's in God. Not sometimes, it's always in God. Sometimes it's in me. Most often it's in my kids because I have to always remind myself I can only do so much, but they can do
Mhm.
so much more than we ever expected.
Oh, kids are amazing. They're so
Yeah.
moldable. I mean, like my
Yeah.
kid surprises me every single day.
Yeah.
He's like, he's learning how to code in Roblox for crying out loud. He's 10.
Yep.
And he comes up to me, he's
Yeah.
like, "Daddy, can you show me how to fix this?" I'm like, uh, no, I have no idea what I'm looking at." And he starts
Yeah.
showing me, I'm like, "How'd you learn this?" He's like, "YouTube."
Yeah.
But the thing is,
Yeah.
I'll learn on YouTube, I'll do it once and I'll forget. I'm 42, I'll
No, they
forget.
don't forget.
My brain has reached capacity. It's done. I can replace things in it, but I can't add to it. And he just absorbs it. He watches
Yeah.
something once and then he's like, "Well, what if I do this?" And I remember when I was learning web design, and I remember when I was doing that back in the day, back in the 90s, back in the Stone Age. Um,
Beginning of the internet. Yeah.
the
When
beginning of
AOL
the
spoke
internet,
CD.
yeah, exactly. Dial up, beep, boop, boop,
Oh, yeah.
it's always good
Oh,
for
yeah.
audio. It's always good for audio. But I remember like saying, "What if I do this?" And I learned how to HTML, I learned how to do CSS and all that stuff. I can't do that anymore. I have to have crib notes.
Yep.
I will not. It'll
Yeah.
take me 15 tries to remember one thing permanently. Whereas he'll be like, "Oh, okay," and he'll know to do that.
Mhm.
Kids are amazing.
Yeah, and remember when you were young and everything was an experiment of fun, versus the weight of like, I've got to get it right? That's the thing with kids. Kids are like,
No
if it's not
worry.
fun, I'm not doing it. Yeah. If I can't figure it out, then
Yeah.
I'll try another way. As an adult, it's like, no, I did it the one time the way you said, and it doesn't work. So I'm walking away and abandon it. And that's the difference. I
That's
always think like kids, if you give kids a low stake opportunity to enjoy themselves and to learn, they will.
Oh yeah.
The
My
moment you
kid
make it weighted, it
yeah,
gets
my
tough.
kiddo says he doesn't like school, but when he comes home from school, he's like, "Guess what I learned today at school?" I'm like, "It's he's like, school's like prison." I mean, he's so smart. He made the parallel of school to
Yeah.
prison because you can't do what you want when you want. You have
Mhm.
schedule. You have this. I'm like, "That's very intelligent of you, but you have to come home at night." And he's like, "Oh, well, that's true. That's true." I'm like, so people can find you over at northstaracademics.org, and of
Yes.
course you're on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Is that your big ordering hall online? Is that where you like to hang out? Is LinkedIn or is it Instagram? Like, where can people find you?
Most people can find me on LinkedIn. So I love to chat with people. I've got some really great counterparts, and we're always posting and sharing info. So for
Love it.
families who are looking for just a ton of great information, LinkedIn, we're always posting. And then I'm on Instagram, but like I said at the onset, social media is not.
Give you a balance
I
sheet before social media.
Yeah, give me a balance sheet before social media. I'm of the generation where like I was too old to be an early Instagram adopter and all of
Yeah.
that. So
I couldn't get into it till they made it to Android. So I was like 3 years
uh,
past. And like,
yeah.
guys, put it on Android for crying out loud. Now they do it. Now they do parallel. All the
Yeah.
developers do parallel. But for like 40 years, they were like Instagram this, Instagram that. I'm like, I can't play with it because it's not for Android.
Yeah. Look, I still miss my BlackBerry. So that just tells you like how far
Yeah.
back I'm willing to go with a cell phone. But no, we are on Instagram and we're on Facebook. So it's a great way to engage with families. But
Yeah.
I'm super excited for any family who wants to visit our website, use the
Yes.
contact us button, make an appointment. I'd love to chat.
And do you are you mostly local or do you do nationwide counseling?
No, we do nationwide. So actually at the onset of COVID, half of my clients were outside of California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
God,
And
isn't
so
the
it's
internet
great.
amazing? How what you can do with it
It's
now?
it's phenomenal. And my background just being in education administration, I've got clients in North Carolina, Texas, Atlanta,
Oh, you're all
Washington,
over the place.
D.C. So we've been all over the place. And
Everywhere
what
it's
I always
cheaper
like
to
to
live.
tell yeah, so then I chose the most expensive place to
I
live. Well,
know, Atlanta, you can get the same house you have probably in California for half the price.
oh,
I have
don't
friends who
get
went
me
down to
started.
Atlanta, not for the political system or anything like that, but because it's cheaper down there than it is in the
Yeah,
Philadelphia area.
yeah, absolutely. I love Philly though. Like my best friend's gonna move to Philly, and I'm so excited. I can't wait for her to get there.
Philly's I don't get me started on Philly, we'll be here for hours. Born and raised in Philly. I mean, I love Philly. Philly's my Philly if it was a human, I'd marry it. I just love Philly.
Well, if it's any
It's my city,
consolation,
like New York, oh, sorry, New Yorkers,
yeah.
I do not like New York. New York, I like New York in small doses. I can go in Philly every single day and be perfectly happy.
Philly's a great city. It's a cosmopolitan city, but it feels really approachable. Like the way that DC used to feel at one point for me, Philly feels that way. You can get into Philly,
DC's
you can
so
do
approachable,
anything
but
you
DC
want.
also has a better museum structure, I think. DC's got the Smithsonian, which is,
Yes,
like, awesome.
yes. But I think Philly's got so much beautiful architecture, great
Yeah,
museums, and then obviously American history. Like you can get what you want in Philly depending on where you are. Yeah,
it's
I love
awesome.
Philly.
I love it, and on that note, we'll end on a Philly Love Fest, which is kind of funny because we
Yes.
have the love statue, so, Ashley, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad you came on, and we'll see everyone next time.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneur's Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network.